What's up, guys? Lucas here, and I'm here to talk to you guys about the 2020-2021 NBA offseason. So this offseason has been kind of crazy, seeing that we only had about a month for this offseason to take place, which included the draft, NBA free agency, all the trades. It was a crazy offseason, and I just wanted to recap everything before the NBA season starts, which is also in less than a month. So without further ado, I just want to get right into it, and the team we'll be talking about today is the Houston Rockets. They, to me, are the most interesting team heading into one of the most interesting teams heading into the 2020-2021 NBA season, as they've been a contender for the past 6 years, maybe less than that. Just Harden and this Rockets team has been in the top of the West for a few seasons now, and this is the first one where I could see that starting to slip. So obviously, we know about the trades, Russell Westbrook for John Wall, but I just want to go over everything that they did this offseason. So let's start with that. So obviously the John Wall trade, Kenyon Martin was drafted 52nd overall by them. They signed Christian Wood in a sign-and-trade from Detroit. They signed DeMarcus Cousins, and they signed a foreign player named Jae'Sean Tate. And they lost players like Robert Covington, who they traded to the Portland Trailblazers for 2 first-round picks, Russell Westbrook, who they traded for John Wall, and Jeff Green, Austin Rivers, Tyson Chandler, DeMarre Carroll, and Gerald Green. They lost a few more, but those are the only players that were in their roster. So let's get started off talking about the John Wall trade. I don't really like this trade for either side. I like it more for the Wizards because they're getting the better player. But either way, I don't think this makes the Wizards a contender. I'm not going to talk about them. I'll save it for the Wizards video. Looking at the Rockets side, they got John Wall, who hasn't played in 2 years. So we really have no clue what this guy is going to be on the court. Hopefully, he could fill in for a lot of what Russell Westbrook did last season with the floor spacing around Westbrook. He had one of his most efficient seasons of his career. So I do think the mold of what John Wall fits well with this team, but I don't see the player actually being as good or as impactful as Russell Westbrook, just because he hasn't been in the league for 2 years. Even if he's not as bad as we thought he was originally, like let's say he's not as injured or not as like he still has his athleticism, it just takes a while to get back to playing NBA basketball. So I could see him struggling this year. So yeah, the John Wall trade, kind of a negative. I don't agree with it, but I don't think he really had an option. Russell Westbrook was asking for a trade. So moving on, they signed Christian Wood, which was probably my favorite of their acquisitions this year. He is a really great young player on this team. He averaged 20.5 points and 10.4 rebounds on 52% field goal shooting once Andre Drummond was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So he obviously, once given the opportunity, is a very good player. I think he could be one of the best signings like this offseason, because we just haven't really seen him with enough opportunity on a team for an entire season. And we saw it last season. He got the opportunity, but it was only for like a 12-game sample size. So I think he's probably going to be their most impactful signing this year. I could easily see him being in the most improved player conversation as well. So another signing, DeMarcus Cousins, another big man. A lot of people are saying like they're in similar boats to John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, and a lot of people are scared about what DeMarcus Cousins will be. I think defensively, I think he's done. Like, he's not going to be a good defensive player at this point, but offensively, I think he can really help you out. He's a shooting and passing big still, and there's not a lot of those in the league. So finding that out of DeMarcus Cousins, I think could help the Rockets kind of with losing Russell Westbrook, just like having a secondary passer. Like they didn't have one. They didn't have a big man last year, of course, because of small ball, but it also like adds more like an inside out game, like because DeMarcus can pass out of the post really well. So I do like the signings that they made with Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins. I think that's going to be a good backcourt for the Rockets moving forward, at least if they were trying to win again. I think Christian Wood is more of a future player, but DeMarcus Cousins is definitely a win now kind of player. And then trades they made, obviously Russell Westbrook and Robert Covington. The Robert Covington trade was weird for me because it seems like a move you'd make when you're not trying to compete anymore. So once they traded Robert Covington, I thought for sure they were going to trade James Harden and Russell Westbrook. The Russell Westbrook part came true, but James Harden's still on the roster, and they're set on keeping him. So, yeah, it's a weird situation. I don't think that's like the kind of move you want to do to try to keep him. I think you should have probably gotten some sort of win now player instead of future draft picks, because I just don't think that's that appealing to Harden. So yeah, it was an interesting trade for them. I don't hate it because they got a lot back for Robert Covington. It was just not what you want to do if you're trying to keep Russell or James Harden. So let's talk about the James Harden situation because it's weird. James Harden, obviously, today is December 8th, and I just got a report that he is isolating right now to start practice. So he will be able to start practice in 2 days after 2 negative COVID tests, which is 2 days late. So he hasn't been in practice for the past 2 days. He was seen in a Las Vegas strip club or casino, I forgot which one. He's just not in the facility, and it obviously is causing some turmoil in the team. Steven Silas, their new coach, said, it's tough having your best player not here, and they really have no expected time that he's going to return. So it's a weird situation there. I don't really like what James Harden is doing. It's part of the player empowerment movement, but I think him and Anthony Davis kind of are taking it, and even Kawhi to an extent are just taking it a little too far with the not playing part. Like, I understand asking for a trade, especially in situations like if Cat wanted to ask for a trade. I know that's weird because he just got D'Angelo Russell, but I know he was asking for one, and he was in a terrible situation. Like, if you're in a dysfunctional franchise, I understand it, but Harden hasn't been. He's been in a good franchise that's been run well, and they've done everything they can to put him in a situation to win. Like, they've honestly been one of the best franchises to their star out of anyone in the league. At least you could say that with Anthony Davis. He wasn't part of a good franchise. He was part of a dysfunctional franchise. So this just makes no sense to me that Harden is this set on leaving the Rockets. So I agree with the Rockets. I wouldn't trade him unless the offer was just too good, which the only one I think they could get is Ben Simmons. But yeah, I just don't see a trade out there for Harden. I think you keep him, but I think you obviously are keeping, you keep looking, and I think the only trade you do is with the Sixers to get one of those two guys. So yeah, that's how I feel about the Rockets moves this offseason. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team? No, just because how incredibly... I guess it depends. If Harden's on this roster the whole season, I do think they sneak in the playoffs because Harden is that good. And just having Harden on your team, you're going to make the playoffs. But I don't see them. I could see them being a lower seed, like a 8-5 range. And if Harden's not on this team, or the turmoil of him wanting to leave affects his team too much, I could easily see them falling out of the playoffs, especially in the incredibly competitive West, where literally there's 12 teams that are trying to make the playoffs this year. So if I had to guess, no, I don't think the Houston Rockets are going to make the playoffs next year. So with that being said, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe below, and comment what you think the Rockets are going to be next year. What do you think their new signings are going to be like? Let's start a conversation down there, and I'll talk to you guys next time. See ya.